Welcome, ladies and gentlemen from all over the world. My name is Freek van Eijk and I'm director of Holland Circular Hotspot, and I'm super excited to be your moderator of this Circular Climate Booster event. This event will feed in the World Circular Economy Forum plus Climate later this month. And the World Circular Economy Forum is, as you know, of course, the largest and most impressive circular economy event in the world, initiated by our friends from Citra. The session will be exciting, but can be even more exciting with your input. We need your input in the web chat. Share your emotions, your thoughts. If you don't agree with the speakers, please let us know. We have a specialized, dedicated team to answer all the questions. Now, what drives us today? The Minister for the Environment of the Netherlands, Ms. Tientje van Veldhoven, stated in a way that I can't possibly improve on. So I quote, "It's time to change the game. If we want to tackle climate change, we need to look beyond energy efficiency and move towards a circular economy. We have to stop wasting our resources, reuse our materials and turn them into new products. Together, we can close the loop to a circular economy, a necessity for climate neutrality by 2050. It's time for change." Now, earlier today, we had a webinar on textiles. The session now is on plastics. And there is a tremendous momentum for this topic of plastics. So we have to use this momentum. We have a packed program. Stay with us till the end because we have best practices from 4 continents, from every part of the world, from every part of the value chain. And these entrepreneurs will be very exciting. They will share their best practice, their lessons learned, their recommendations for others. We have 2 content guides with us. We have Jocelyne from the African Circular Economy Network, and we have David from UK-based REP. I'll be back with them later. To warm us all up, we have a short introduction video.
Plastic is an amazing invention, but it is also one of the largest environmental threats. Circular strategies have proven their potential to create climate-friendly solutions for the plastic industry. And best practices can be found all around the world, each one of them solving various steps of the value chain and reducing the carbon footprint. Think of 100% mechanically recycled food-grade bottles. Simply eliminating plastics in the design phase of the value chain. Think also of new business models developing a logistic chain allowing for reuse of packaging while keeping it convenient and affordable for the consumer. Or of new models for demand and use, such as a refill model coming directly at the consumer's doorstep and leaving the choice of quantity to the consumer. But also of game-changing upcycling initiatives empowering local waste pickers and closing the loop with innovating technologies allowing to transform all type of used plastics into virgin quality PET. All these separate initiatives can make a global impact. What are the conditions for change? The conditions for opportunities to scale and for new collaborations to emerge.
Hello, David. Hello, hopefully, Jocelyne as well. So my takeaway from this video is more than just a sense of urgency. It's also hopeful because we see so many best practices from everywhere. But we need to increase impact, and that's exactly why we're here together, to see what's needed to have these best practices scale and how to start more best practices like this one. And for that, we need you. I will start with you, David. You are the head of International Resource Management as UK-based REP. Now, I know that REP is very active in the field of plastics internationally, so please tell something about the activities and your lessons learned so far in this journey.
Thank you. REP is a leading sustainability not-for-profit, tackling waste and carbon emissions, and we've been involved in creating a circular economy for plastics since the year 2000. We've been behind a number of key developments, including proving the case for food-grade recycled plastic, which we saw in the video just now. We launched the UK Plastics Pact in 2018, which has gone on to be the model for more than 10 plastics pacts around the world. These pacts aim to ensure that plastic that is placed on the market is 100% reusable or recyclable, that it's effectively collected and recycled, and that it's used again in new packaging. WRAP is actively involved in supporting these pacts and sees the same challenges arising many times. We also see how they can be overcome. What we've learned is that real change happens only when the whole system comes together to agree what the change should be and to embrace that change. It requires those who make plastic, who fill it with products, who sell it, use it, dispose of it, collect it and recycle it, plus the authorities who govern all of this, to come together, identify what needs to change and make that change. It requires innovation, legislation and collaboration. Innovations like the ones we'll see today play a major part, and I applaud the entrepreneurs for their creativity and hard work.
Thanks, David. So I heard value chain collaboration, collaboration between public and private partners, innovation. Well, I think we'll hear more about that later if it's correct. What do you hope to get from this session today, listening to all the entrepreneurs from every part of the globe? What would be the best possible outcome for you?
Well, certainly learning from all of their experiences and seeing what is possible, the art of the possible, and also to find ways of joining up all the players in the value chain and all of us working on this topic around the world so that these innovations can be scaled up and so that circular use of plastic becomes just the default behavior.
Okay, I'm looking at the control room. Is Jocelyne already with us? Not yet. So David, as an introduction, you worked outside the UK and outside Europe as well. What are your experiences with plastics in emerging countries? What would be, what are your observations there? What's different?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. We do work across sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America, Southeast Asia, India, and across the Pacific. And one thing that I've learned is that emerging markets really show an incredible willingness and desire to tackle this issue. In fact, they often encounter plastic in the environment in a much more direct way than we do in Europe. It affects their livelihoods, their health, their homes directly, causing flooding, fires, and so on, which can be extremely damaging. One thing I've learned is that often a very major part in fixing the system in those countries is to garner the efforts of the informal sector, as we'll see from Mr. Green Africa later. By doing that, you can bring material into a more formalized recycling system, and that enables investment to be made in facilities which can take that material, recycle it, and put it back into the market in a useful way. And the range of uses can be anything from building materials to new packaging. There's really so much potential. And what's really rewarding is just seeing how engaged countries are in tackling this issue.
So you, as Jocelyne is still not there, so I keep, let's say, discussing with you. You talked about plastic packs, international plastic packs. Have you seen this happening outside Europe as well? And can you give an example?
Yes, so there are 10 plastics pacts currently launched, and they cover the globe. There are 4 in Europe. There's a European continent-wide plastic pact to which WRAP provides the secretariat. There's really well-established plastic pacts in South Africa, in Chile, in the USA and Canada, and others about to launch in India, Kenya, Senegal, and a regional pact for Australia and the Pacific region. And what we've learned from all of these is that when you bring together all of the different parts of the value chain, with all of the knowledge they have about their specific area, and you look at the whole journey of a piece of plastic from beginning to end and back to the beginning again, that's where you can really identify what changes need to be made. And by having all those people together, you can pick the person who has the power to make that change, whether it's government or an innovation, an adaptation of a new business model. So much power in that collaboration model. And we've seen some examples. So in the UK, where the Plastic Pact has been running the longest, we can point to at least 2 billion items that have been either taken off the market completely or that were not recyclable before and now are. And that makes a huge impact in the environment. You can imagine doing that at scale in countries like India, sub-Saharan African countries, where that material ends up directly in the environment. The impact of removing that and putting it into a recycling system could be extremely powerful indeed.
Thanks for that. I think that's very insightful. We want to know let's say, how we can stimulate the value chain to work together, what's needed from businesses, also from government. Can you maybe mention a few areas of attention that we want the speaker to touch upon, like regulation, market development, collaboration? Can you warm them up a little bit?
Yes, so the system works best when there is plastic is only used where it's absolutely necessary. So innovations which remove the need for so much plastic in the first place are really important. It'd be interesting to see how we could scale that up and make it easy for the day-to-day consumer who, let's admit they may be a little bit lazy. So let's see how can they use things like Loop and Algramo in a day-to-day way so that we can all make it part of our lives. And then for that plastic which is still necessary and does a good job in protecting our food and medicines, how do we create that so that it can be collected and recycled and turned back into new material? What are the barriers to doing that? Sometimes it's legislation, sometimes it's just practicality and the technology doesn't exist. So is there innovation? Is there investment that needs to be made to make that much easier to do?
Okay. Now, thanks. I just heard that Jocelyne is with us again, so let's give her 2 or 3 minutes of quality time as well. Jocelyne, you made it. Thank you. Hello there. We can't hear you yet. Turn up the volume, unmute.
Oh,
Hello.
okay. Thank you, I'm here.
Hi, Jocelyne. Do you have in 2 minutes, let's say, some background on yourself, African Circular Economy Network, and the topic of plastics in Africa?
Okay, I'm Jocelyne Tsonang from Cameroon. I am a Cameroonian and based in Cameroon. And I am an executive team member of the African Circular Economy Network. I am an environmentalist and natural resource management consultant with over 7 years experience. And I also own my own eco-friendly housing construction company. So that's a brief about me. And the African Circular Economy Network is registered as a non-profit organization in South Africa. So currently we have chapters in roughly 30 African countries. So we're covering like all the sub-regions in Africa. And so what we do is the African Circular Economy Network is like a one-stop shop for circular economy in Africa. So we try to bring on board all stakeholders involved in the circular economy transition to circular economy to see how we can better succeed a sustainable transition to circular economy in Africa. So about plastics in Africa. So what I would like to say is the context here in Africa is quite different from that of the West because we know Africans most of them do not live in luxury, and so they have been practicing circular economy forever, like for a long time. So if we want to talk about plastics, for instance, we do not Africans do not have the waste culture like the other parts of the world. But what we are facing like a major problem for plastic in Africa now is that of packaging and the single-use packaging, whether it be PET bottles or packaging for fruits and other shopping bags, plastic shopping bags. So those are the major one causing us like some problems or some environmental and climate-related issues. So we have few countries in Africa with single-use plastic ban policies like Kenya, Rwanda, and also Cameroon. where I come from, but some are really stringent on the application of this single-use plastic ban, whereas others do not have the means to, do not have something, I can say like the mean or the will to get it to get these policies to be implemented. And we have a lot of circular economies, SMEs in the plastic recycling sector trying to do their best daily to see that we have a low impact from plastic waste on the continent. So basically, the plastic produced in Cameroon is a problem, but that the one coming from export from America and other parts of the world as very low quality second-hand goods, and also plastic waste itself is posing again much problem than the waste generated by the Africans themselves. So so far
Jocelyne.
We have very good initiative, but the major problem in Africa is infrastructure for proper waste collection and waste management. Thank you.
I think, well done, Jocelyne. Great that you made it in this session. You and David have paved the way for the entrepreneurs. We've touched upon collaboration. You've touched on packaging. We've touched also on import of plastics. I think we have lots to talk about with innovation. So it's actually time for the entrepreneurs now. And why are entrepreneurs so important, ladies and gentlemen? Because they show guts, they invest, they are responsible for scaling up. So we need them to do their work, but they can't do it alone. Now, how are we going to start this discussion? What have we done? We will make something like a virtual travel through the value chain of plastics. And we've divided this value chain into 3 parts, and we will speak with 3 times 2 entrepreneurs. And we start with the beginning of the value chain. That's the area of design, material innovation, and production. And Jocelyne mentioned the topic of packaging. Packaging is probably an issue everywhere. It's about preventing waste and reducing the need for virgin input material. So I want to welcome Crystal Howe from Ice River Sustainable Solutions and Patrick van Baal from FrieslandCampina. Now, what will happen is that they will each present their company in 3 minutes, and then I will start a question with each of them. Let's make the video linkage to Crystal. Crystal, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Great. Well, I know that you come from a very, very entrepreneurial family that has given light to Ice River Sustainable Solutions. Please enlighten us of your work.
Okay, so we're based in Canada. We're a family-owned and operated business. I work with my brothers and my mom and dad every day, which is awesome. Basically, our claim to fame was back in 2010 when we became the first beverage company in North America to run our own recycling facility and produce a 100% recycled content beverage bottle from that same material. But it really didn't end there in true entrepreneurial spirit. When we buy the PET baled material that's collected here in Ontario, it's coming from a single stream source. So our material recovery facilities sort it, and we obviously get some extra materials mixed in with our bales. So to improve recovery on that material, we have developed end markets where they actually didn't exist in the first place. So we actually operate 7 businesses now that use that material and put it back into a value add situation. So for example, when you use PET bottles, you have a cap, polyolefin based cap, HDPE or polypro. We actually operate a furniture company that consumes that material and makes recycled furniture from it. The green PET that we receive in our bottle bales actually turns into our own brand. So our brand is small. It's able to manage just a small amount of that plastic, but it keeps an additional 5 million pounds of plastic in the value stream every year. And then the next item that we're working on right now is actually thermoform sheet, which would consume some of those difficult colors to manage that we get in our bale of PET. So I think what I find interesting with the way my parents think and their entrepreneurial spirit is that they don't see the perceived barriers as an actual barrier. They want to move past that and find a real solution. So they're not afraid to work really hard and do things that others might not be willing to do. So overall, our businesses now every year recycle approximately 30,000 metric tons of plastic.
Thanks, Crystal. That's impressive. And you also point at the passion and the persistence of an entrepreneur. That's great. And what you do is actually from a lousy quality of plastic, you can manage to make also food grade by mechanical recycling. From a family-owned business, we now turn to a cooperative giant, FrieslandCampina. And with us is Patrick van Baal. Patrick, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Great. I believe you are the Global R&D Director for Packaging Development, and you are going to give us something like a one-man show with all kinds of attributes, I believe. Please tell us the story of FrieslandCampina.
Okay, hi. Thanks for having me. I'm Patrick van Baal, responsible for the development team for packaging for FrieslandCampina. We are a dairy cooperative, which means that there's 12,000 dairy farmers, which are entrepreneurs, and they own the company. They are our bosses, and our task is to produce and pack and sell the products. And I have the honor to lead the team who's responsible to develop the packaging solutions of the company. I'm doing this for 4 years, and 4 years ago we started a journey because we have been focusing a lot on the product side of becoming the most sustainable dairy company, but we didn't focus that much on packaging. So we had a lot of catch up to do. And one of the first things we did is we developed our own tool to measure the performance of all our packaging formats of the company to understand where we are and how sustainable or not sustainable our packages are. And from this perspective, we have calculated and mapped for our total global scope. We are a company with 11.6 billion turnover. So you can imagine that we have any packaging format you can think of, glass, metal, paper, plastics, we have it. And we have a pretty clear picture where we are and what's working and what not. And from this analysis, we have built a program, a 5-year program to, in 2025, to have all our packs recyclable. And a bit in the longer term, we need to make them circular. And as we are a food company, that's a pretty big challenge because I know the challenge Crystal has been going through. And we're trying to do that on multiple formats, multiple product types. And this is where we are working on, but not just changing the formats. And we're really looking into recycling, making plastic circular, but
30
also
seconds,
reducing
please, Patrick.
Plastics.
30 seconds, Patrick. I believe you want to show us something. Can you do that in 30 seconds?
This is the current world of milk cartons. It has a cap. And we have changed actually to a format. We renovated. We went back in terms of time and we removed the plastic cap. And that was, we had a lot of discussions if this is the right way to go or not, because definitely we are compromising convenience. But after a lot of discussions, we said, let's take our product, our organic product with the most conscious customers, and let's see if they are willing to compromise convenience to reduce plastic. And you can research a lot, but we took the big step and we tried. So, and I cannot tell you where it's going because we just implemented it, but I think it's amazing to work in a company where people are open to try and move forward. And worst case, we need to move back.
Thanks for that. Just do it. Thank you, Patrick. I will be back with you soon. But first, I continue the discussion with Crystal. Are you back with me? Yes, you are.
Yes.
So I remember you saying to me that you heard that people told you it couldn't be done. Yet you managed. So what have been your critical success factors? What can others learn from you?
I think that the first major one is that entrepreneurial spirit. I think I've said it before, where if someone tells my parents that they can't do something, I know that that's going to be our focus for that year. It gets us into lots of interesting predicaments, but they really don't give up, and I'm very proud of them for that. The second one that we had here in Ontario that was a benefit was access to material and that transparency around the volumes available to us. That's incredibly helpful for designing business models so that we could buy equipment that would manage the material that was being collected locally and size it based on that. The other piece was having access to it. So there's no long contracts. We can just move in and bid on that monthly material, and it's not locked up. So it allows for innovation. And finally, I think the biggest piece that brought everything together was finding a partner in a retailer that would actually push this out on a bigger scale. So for us, it was Loblaw. They were the first company to accept our 100% recycled beverage bottle and transition their brand to that material. And as soon as they did that, it actually opened doors. Every major retailer across Canada wanted their brand in this 100% recycled bottle, which allowed us to scale. And really, when it comes to the consumer now, when they're shopping at their favorite grocery store, the options, there's always a recycled content option that's able to compete with virgin.
Thanks. A small question for you. I hope you can give a 1 or 2 sentence answer. Did you manage to have a climate impact assessment of your activity?
Yes, we found that there's a 78% reduction in emissions when using recycled content instead of virgin material.
And what would be the top 2 things which would help you from regulatory perspective to grow your business? What would you pick?
I think the first one is getting a consistent end market. So driving producers to consume recycled content so that we can size ourselves according to the market. And then second would be access to more material. And I think everybody can agree to that. So designing products that fit within the system so that we're collecting items that can be circular, as well as gaining access to the industry, the commercial, the institutional locations, getting material from them as well. And then just transparency on that material again, so that larger companies can build upon it.
Fantastic. Thank you for being with us. We go back to Patrick van Baal. Patrick, are you here? Yes?
Yes.
So you're a global player, but also a multi-local player. Can you share your advice to other companies which might not have your skill yet, how design can help them to go circular?
Yes, definitely. And it's one of the things is that it's not an easy topic. It's an emotional topic too. So there is a lot of not complete information floating around. So if you want to move, if you want to change, if you want to take ownership, first start doing your homework. Build the expertise or hire expertise. And then the next step is gather data. So really, this is something which really helped us. Understand how you measure things, understand the facts, and gather them. And then the third step is probably the nicest one to do, is find friends. Find people who want to move. Find companies who want to move, because there's a lot who don't want. Don't waste your time with them. Get things moving and find companions, friends, and start working with them.
Thanks, Patrick. Coalition of the willing. That's, I think, very important if you want to manage something, measure it as well. You work in lots of different realities. What would be your advice for, let's say, emerging countries and maybe more developed countries, if you could make your pick? What is the difference between the two?
Don't emerging countries, don't copy the established systems. Do your analysis, build your own systems, learn, pick the nice things from what is done somewhere else, but really configure your own systems, because definitely the systems around in some of the developed markets are far from perfect, and we're struggling to getting them optimized. So when you build new systems for circularity, you have an amazing opportunity to build from the start the right systems and hopefully be ahead of us soon.
Thanks for that. Thank you very much for showing the leadership of FrieslandCampina. Ladies and gentlemen, back home, don't forget to share your emotions, your questions, your deepening questions for the speakers in the web chat. We now continue with 2 more best practices along another part of the value chain. From the design aspect, material innovation, we move on to new business models. Business models like Loop and Algramo, who are focused at consumers, which are about reusable bottles, refillable bottles. We have an example from the USA and we have an example from Chile. We'll first see 2 introductions and then we'll question them again. Well, first with us is Zsaky from TerraCycle. And Tom is a mover and a shaker and just a new father. Tom, great to have you with us. Please tell us the story of the Loop initiative, your intentions and also your dream.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. So TerraCycle, which is the parent company for Loop, we've been around for 20 years, operating nationally in 22 countries, including the Netherlands. And as background, what we do there is focus on how do we collect and recycle hard-to-recycle waste streams. So for example, in Amsterdam, you would see our diaper recycling bins throughout the city. We also think about how do we integrate unique recycled content from ocean plastic to inner city plastic back into products. And this journey on creating a circular economy based on recycling and recycled content led us to create Loop, which is a platform for reuse, ideally moving from a circular economy based on recycling to a circular economy based on cleaning and refilling. And what we found is needed for the reuse movement to grow is a platform on top of which any brand can create reusable versions of their products. And today Loop has over 120 major consumer good companies from Nestle to Procter & Gamble and others participating. And then working with the retailers who then make that available to their consumers in their physical and digital stores. So today you can find Loop at physical stores at Carrefour in France or Tesco in the UK soon, Canada, US, Japan, Australia, these sort of examples. And the general approach is, how do we make reuse as convenient as possible? So a consumer can walk into their favorite store, buy their favorite product, say Haagen-Dazs ice cream or their laundry detergent in a reusable package, pay a deposit, and then return it to any other participating store, like perhaps a Burger King or McDonald's, who are also partners. And then our job is effectively the waste management function of reuse, where we take all of this collected durable packaging, refund deposits, sort it out, clean it at high standards, and then supply it back to brands who then refill it, allowing that journey to begin again. And I'll close on this one point, is that this may seem new, but it's in fact an old idea. It's in fact, it's how beverages in Holland used to be, or still are in some countries like Germany, or beer in Canada. But it's taking that philosophy and expanding it to any consumable product, from your shampoo to your ketchup.
Thanks, Tom. As inspiring as everything. And indeed, circular economy is not a new thing. It's something which we have reinvented in a way. The old farm was circular. Books as a service, a library. We have forgotten it, actually. So thanks, I will be back with you later. Now with us is Brian Bauer from Algramo. And that's an entrepreneur with a similar passion as Tom and a similar drive. But he's adding also new elements to a new target group. Brian, please enlighten us. And I believe we will start with a movie where you will be the voiceover.
Sure, thank you so much. So in this movie here, there's 3 critical elements to Algramo's distribution system. One is smart packaging, so that's packaging with RFID technology. The other is an app, which you use to coordinate a visit from the electric tricycle that brings the product to your doorstep. So you have the convenience of having your refill happen on your doorstep in Algramo's smart reusable packaging. So there's 3 critical elements: the packaging, the app, and the dispensers, the IoT connected dispensers on the back of the tricycle. And those 3 systems communicate with each other and create the Algramo distribution system.
So what makes you proud, actually, Brian?
I think what we're really proud about at Algramo is why we came into existence. And why we came into existence was to solve what we call the poverty tax. The poverty tax happens across most of the developing world. And that happens when people have limited or volatile incomes. They buy in small format packaging, and they typically buy in a place that have underfunded or overstressed waste management systems. And there's a deep nexus between that complex social problem and a complex environmental problem. The complex environmental problem being plastic leaking into the environment or places it shouldn't be. And Algramo's created a system to solve that. So our system base started 7 years ago, and we started with our own white label products. And our initial reuse rates on our packaging were pretty dismal. They were less than 10%. But over 3 or 4 years, we worked hard and got them up over 80%. And that caught the attention of the former CEO of Unilever Chile. And he came to us in 2018 and said, hey, I really like what you guys are doing. Do you think there might be a way that we could start working together? So starting in mid-2018, we started trying to kind of co-develop distribution systems using the technology that I mentioned before, the IoT connected dispensers, the packaging as a wallet with global brands. And we're now currently working with Unilever, Nestle, and Colgate, and in discussions with most other major brands.
So strategic collaboration with large retailers. Is it right that you are also expanding geographically, going to other areas of the world?
Yeah, we started a pilot in New York. We started the pilot a little bit sooner than initially planned, and we did that because we wanted to provide COVID-based products. So things like alcohol for cleaning the hands, soap, etc. So we started in New York, I believe it was in August or September of this past year. And we're currently just setting up a pilot in Jakarta. We're really excited to be in Jakarta because it's the #2 hotspot, or Indonesia is the #2 hotspot for ocean plastic leakage. And we're currently expanding into some of the key markets in LATAM. We'll be soon entering Mexico and Colombia.
So in one sentence, where do you hope to be in 5 years from now?
In 5 years from now, it would be amazing if Algramo can be a key player in helping global brands catalyze reuse systems and get us up to that 20% mark, where people believe that 20% of single-use packaging in your average grocery store can be sold through reusable packaging systems.
Wonderful, Brian. I will be back with you soon. I continue my discussion with Tom. Tom, a lot of the discussions around what needs to be done are always focusing on the government, what they need, what needs to be done by them to enable the entrepreneur. You focus on consumers, but let's say, are they so easy to get along? What's your role there? What's the role of the retailer when we talk about consumers?
It's a very good question. I think the consumer is, the most important voice here, because the consumer votes for the future they want with what they buy. Now, what is important, though, is a consumer can't vote on something if that choice isn't made available to them, and not just made available, but amplified in a way that they can find it and fall in love with it. And that really is the role of the retailer. Now, pragmatically, in a platform play like Loop, we depend on retailers to enable us to launch in countries. And they are also the ones who help encourage their major vendor partners, the manufacturers, to invest these substantial resources that are taken to enable these circular supply chains. It's the easiest thing for a brand to do is to do no change whatsoever. And so any form of change requires effort. In the case of Loop, that means developing new packaging forms, how to fill those packaging forms, and having key retailers helping to encourage and motivate the brands is really critical, especially if you're a company like Loop or Algramo, where we rely on other parties to be able to succeed, whether it's making the content or also supporting in distribution.
So you mentioned earlier convenience for consumers and now leadership by retailers. What can the government additionally do to, let's say, to close the loop for plastics?
I think the government can do three things. The easiest, by the way, is just talking about it in the media, making it a topic, a part of the national conversation, because there's so many things we care about and we only have so much mental capacity. I think making it a discussion point is very important. Then if there's more ambition by a lawmaker or a government official, I would make it more difficult to do linear systems. That could be things like banning products that are maybe dangerous. We've seen that on straws and plastic in plastic bags. It could be deposit return schemes, extended product responsibility legislation, effectively making single-use or linear systems more challenging, and then also to make circular systems easier by subsidizing them, making grants available, giving resources to entrepreneurs so that it's easier to bring about these changes. Because when we launch products, whether it's Loop or Algramo, we are directly compared against what is already out there and very financially efficient. So any help that we can get only allows this transition to occur faster.
So what's the next step for Loop, and what or who do you need for that? Where do you want to be?
Absolutely. Well, Loop has been growing incredibly quickly. We're already live in 4 countries, US, Canada, UK, France. We will be launching in Japan in a few months from now, and then end of this year in Australia. What we're really looking at as a platform is to have more brands join and more retailers, and then to help us expand into new markets around the world. Because our dream is really to create a global platform for reuse where you can buy anywhere and return anywhere.
Could a company like FrieslandCampina be a partner for you?
I think everyone can be. And I think this is the exciting thing about the circular economy, is that it's very multi-stakeholder. You need to bring everyone together, and every organization can serve a very important role in stewarding such a system transformation.
Okay, that's great, Tom. Thanks for your time. And one last advice, one quote which you want to leave to the world and to the World Circular Economy Forum plus Climate.
I'll leave in one thought, which is that I believe the most important actor in all of this are us as individual consumers, because what we buy is an active vote for the future, just like what we don't buy is an active vote. So let's really take that seriously and purchase things we want to see more of and not purchase things that we don't want to see more of.
The power of one, the choices we can make individually. Thank you for being with us, Tom. And congratulations again at home.
Thank you.
Thank you. Over to Brian from Chile, Algramo. Where are you with us? Brian? Yes, we have Brian back. Well, you are successful in countries where waste management is still in development. What do you see as key to your success?
There, I think a really key value proposition we can bring is lowering the product costs of life essentials. So that enables people to buy the product for the fairest possible price and the exact amount they need or can afford in a sustainable manner. And that's a really critical issue. In developing countries, there's a lot of people that don't have the financial resources to buy the sustainable option, especially if the sustainable option is more expensive. And we're really proud that here in Chile, and we believe we can do this in most of the markets that we operate in, we're selling Unilever's products for about 30% cheaper than the regular price in your average supermarket.
30, I heard that right.
Yeah, 30%, 30, below the regular price in a large corporate supermarket. So that's really critical for us.
In terms of investment for you to set up this system and go by home, can you give us a little bit more background about the innovative part here?
So yeah, we definitely, to scale fast and into as many markets as possible to essentially amplify our impact, what we need to do is have investment. So we recently closed an investment round, or Series A, and those funds are critical and absolutely essential to enable us to scale much faster and get into those new markets. So like I mentioned, and for developing markets, we're currently in the process of starting a pilot in Jakarta that will be starting in the next week or two. And we're soon this year, we're going to be starting pilots in Indonesia, or not Indonesia, pardon me, I just mentioned that, in Mexico and Colombia. So that's a really critical aspect.
So we haven't talked about this before, but access to finance for similar initiatives, how difficult is that? What would you need there? What's on your wish list there?
Yeah, it can be challenging because there's kind of like a double gateway. There's the first gateway is kind of the standard venture capital gateway of they need to see the business model. They need to see the business model is scalable, investable, so that they get the appropriate return that they're looking for. But on top of that, when you're looking at circular economy investors, quite often there's another gateway, and that is they want to see impact and they want to verify the impact and that can be kind of complex and just add another layer of complexity to making the investment round close, and investment rounds are complex and challenging.
And how do you tackle that?
You just have to be good at telling a story, showing your impact, and clearly articulating why your system is circular and why it creates value and why it's better than business as usual. And those are the kind of the critical elements, I think, to convincing the capital funds that your system is valuable and worth supporting.
Thanks, Brian. You've just heard the words from Tom about how a regulator can help. How is that in your case? Do you have additional items to mention? Do you want to strengthen some of the points spoken out by Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. Tom mentioned something that I completely agree with, and I think it's really critical. And that is that any form of subsidy can really help catalyze this reuse movement. The reuse movement is at a pretty early stage. So a little bit of catalytic capital can be very instrumental in catalyzing the reuse movement. And one thing I've become really interested in recently is looking at EPR schemes and what I call digitally verified refills. So Algramo, like Loop, is a platform technology. And with us, every refill, there's a real-time, basically, verification that refill has happened using technology. So what we have is digitally verified refill credits.
So let me extended producer responsibilities to polluter pays. Normally it's about the recycling content and collection recycling content, but you don't recycle, you actually refill. So you need to be rewarded for that.
The idea would be to take digitally verified refills and instead of basically having a system focused 100% on recycling, start to realize that maybe 20% of the single-use packaging can be done in refill systems like Algramo, Loop, and many of the other brilliant systems and solutions out in the world, and use digitally verified refills as a crediting mechanism within EPR schemes. And that can be a major opportunity to lift all boats in the reuse space, anyone that basically has digitally verified refills.
So that's an interesting point, how to stimulate this reuse model. 20% of the products could be reused, you said.
Yeah, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation in a seminal report a couple of years ago did a big study, and they believe that about 20% of single-use products in your average superstore can be done through innovative refill systems like Algramo, Loop, and various other refill systems out there.
Okay, great. You have 30 seconds to make one quote for the world. You can make any statement you want here now.
I think one thing that's really essential for catalyzing upstream innovation is to take startups and bring them together with brands, with retailers, and with everyone across the plastics value chain, and create an opportunity for all of those key actors to come together and promote upstream solutions on a systems level. And if we can do that, I think that's absolutely critical in truly catalyzing upstream innovation and enabling people to think differently about their packaging and put forth the conditions that will get people to embrace and use reuse systems on a widespread scale.
Thanks, Brian, and congrats for your achievement. We really hope that you manage to scale, and then we will be back with you another time.
Thank you so much.
So we have seen the first part of the value chain. We have talked about new business models. Now we've come to the end of the value chain. It's the world of collection and recycling. And we have two best practices from two different parts of the world. One is the Netherlands, and the other one is Africa, Kenya. So I welcome Ioniqa and Mr. Green Africa. And the first one to open with is Maarten Stolk. He's a business developer from Ioniqa. And actually, hi Maarten, great that you're here. Ioniqa made it to the status of being a national Dutch icon for circular economy. So congrats for that. But it's also an example of the relatively new developments of chemical recycling. So what's Ioniqa doing and what makes it so special? And I believe you will also do a voiceover of a video.
Yeah, that is correct. Let me see what we have. So Ioniqa stands for basically a new technical solution to treat all kind of PET waste material and to bring that back into a virgin-like monomer. The current system still enables a lot of PET wastes. These can be colored, can be multi-layer trays, as well as polyester textiles. And our technology enables basically bringing that waste back into a material that can be used for your soda bottle. That is what we do.
So, and can you tell a little bit more about the input material, but also the output market, the quality of the material you make?
Yeah, sure. The whole technology is based on tackling a broad range of materials. We currently have a 10 kiloton facility in the Netherlands where we treat basically the side stream from the current mechanical recycling. So these are mainly color rejects. And we bring that basically up to a material that is a white powder. We call it the monomer. And that can be basically brought back into the value chain as a PET, where we address mainly the market for recycling companies as well as PET manufacturers. So that is basically our unique technology. And I think what makes us special in that sense is that we are the first one operating something like this, which is quite important to showcase the impact, as was mentioned also by Brian in the past session, because at the end, everybody wants to know what is your impact, and that's only doable by scaling.
Yeah, thanks, Maarten. For me, what I find special for you is that you managed to make to close the loop with a material that can't be recycled mechanically and have really virgin-like quality again. We turn to another change maker, Mr. Keiran Smith. And Keiran is operating quite another geographical reality. Keiran, you close the loop in a continent which is under-regulated, and a key role of your success is also working with the informal sector. So we're really curious to know what's behind your model and how it can scale also in other countries. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to meet you all, and pleasure to be here. As mentioned, I'm Keiran Smith. I'm co-founder and CEO of Mr. Green Africa. We're based in Nairobi, Kenya. And we've been able to develop a business model back in 2014 when not many people were talking about circular economy and plastic recycling as we are talking about it today. But really, in the essence of Mr. Green Africa, it's really about redefining plastics from waste to value and making a localized circular economy in emerging market commonplace. Yeah? And so this is really how we set up, and the main driving forces on how we do that is from a tech perspective, using the latest and newest technologies from a software perspective, but also from a hardware perspective that allows us to do what we're doing efficiently and at scale. And then the second element, the key driving force, is really doing it fair, doing it inclusive, and doing it local. And what this means is literally from an inclusive perspective, you can think of the fair trade model that you see in banana, tea, and coffee industries, where smallholder farmers get integrated into the value chains that get fair prices and more transparent prices. This concept we have applied in our waste value chain in the emerging market context, where our smallholder farmers are waste pickers or reclaimers that harvest every day. And so doing that in a transparent and a scalable way is one key element to do it fair and inclusive. But the other element to do that is also a lot around the entire, so really creating the highest possible value addition in Kenya and for Kenya.
So it's also this working with the informal sector and focusing on quality. I think we have seen that from other speakers as well. I will be certainly back with you very soon. But first I start with Maarten, and the discussion I want to focus on 3 aspects, which is collaboration, climate impact, please, and also what's needed to scale similar effects. Maarten, I start with you. Recycling is normally caught in the middle. You're dependent on an input market and an output market, and you also need access to financing. Can you tell us something about collaboration to get started and the importance of collaboration in your case?
Yeah, I think it's for the recycling business, for innovative technologies as ours, it's challenging. It was also mentioned already by Crystal. The most essential part is getting your hands on actual raw material and understanding the market in such a way that you can build a business case for the technology that you want to scale. For that, you need the partners from the market, you need insights, you need to collaborate, and you need to find the people that are willing and see the promise of a circular economy in an early stage. So I think that is the most challenging part of the partnership is finding the right people that are on the same page with you. And it can be on a very, very big scale, but you can also look at the smaller details on how pragmatic, how do you work together, how do you collaborate?
Can you give examples for the audience of a big one and a small one?
Yeah, I think a big one is how does the corporate look at recycling as such in reporting it in their systems? How important do they find that? I think that is already a very positive way to find the commitment from the senior management and to find the commitment from the corporate to support you. On a smaller scale, it's more on a cultural level. Can you look somebody eye to eye and do you trust them? And do you know what you can expect from the other, even in the hard times? And that is very crucial for a small company, that you know that the other one will support you when it's a bit tough. Let me put it like that.
Is this
because it's not an easy road?
We're in COVID-19 times. Is this a tough time for you? And your colleagues in the market?
I think the biggest difficulties that you will have are the moments that you need to scale. And the moments where you need to scale, you need investment. So you need to show, every time you scale, you need to show what your capabilities are. And those are the most crucial parts. So going from R&D to a pilot plant is a very big, important step, which can be rough. And that time, you need to be supported by the right people.
Okay, and a final question for you. Can you state the link with climate impact? How does it work out for Ioniqa? Can you quantify it or make it understandable for people like me?
Oh, I will try to do my best for all.
In 30 seconds.
let's say we have a PET recycling line. The PET recycling line, PET bottles come in, as Crystal already explained a bit. And during the line, you have losses. The losses that happens during the grinding of your bottle into flakes. These are fines. These normally cannot be treated with all mechanical lines, and you have the things that are sorted out because of the color. And with contaminants on it, like label residues and paper, etc. What we do is we take those materials, we convert the PET fraction that is in. These are still relatively high pure PET streams, but they are not compatible in the current system. And what we do is we convert those streams, which can go up in certain mechanical lines up to 33%, and we close that loop by creating a product that is virgin-like, and you can make food-grade material out of it. That is the most simplest example that I can give. There are also additional benefits, and these are the downcycled materials like trace as well as polyester, which normally cannot be used anymore, and we can also treat them in our systems.
Thanks, Maarten. Unfortunately, webinar time is merciless, so we have to continue to Keiran. Thank you for your time, and we'll be hearing more from you. From the Dutch reality, we go to the African reality again. And Keiran, I give you an open question to start with. You know what you're talking about. How can your organization be supported to scale up and have a climate impact? Just an open question. So, what would be your pick?
I think there's definitely multiple elements how organizations and individuals can partner with us. I mean, but I think from an organizational level and brand level, I can make an example what has been really able to drive success and accelerate the ability for us to create a local circular economy. And what we were able to do is basically link with Unilever, one of the big brand owners that are also very active in East Africa and other African countries, and create the first bottle in a home care application made out of 100% local recycled material or recycled plastic.
So in Kenya, 100% recycled.
Exactly, and everything locally collected, locally recycled, and locally made again. And the power that this has to do this locally and to redistribute the value all the way up to the waste pickers or the reclaimers is a proven model. And I think other brands owners jumping on this value proposition to have a technically viable PCR, post-consumer recyclate, with a traceability and a social impact element is, I think, a key element to accelerate this localized circular economy in emerging markets. And so obviously other brand owners supporting this cause and jumping on, creating that demand, that stable demand for this sort of fair PCR and inclusive PCR is of essence. Yeah, so that's one. And then obviously also people with skills. We believe that our model can be applied into other emerging markets. So having more brains and coming and thinking of how can we scale this into the next countries. and really building a global company or an emerging market company that allows us to really offer that fair and inclusive PCR to the brand owners and other plastic manufacturers.
Can I elaborate on that, the social aspect? You work with the informal sector. Why is that so important for a lot of other countries as well? Everybody talks about it, but not a lot of people are doing it. What can you share on the informal sector and working with them?
Sure. I think it's a really important question, and I'll also re-emphasize that again in my closing remarks. But I think if we think of circular solutions, especially in emerging markets, we must think of including this informal market and the most marginalized people in emerging markets, and actually it gives us an opportunity to truly leapfrog. What Patrick also said, leapfrog into a new system, a new environment, and really empower people. So we can actually solve environmental issues, and we can solve social issues as well at the same time. And that's the beauty of the circular economy that I see, that the underlying opportunities there are. So really, again, emphasis on thinking, when we think of solutions, especially in emerging markets, we must include this informal market and try to informalize them and bring them into a more predictable and less marginalized value chain. And I think plastic or other waste streams and circular economy is a very great tool for us to do that.
Thanks, Keiran. Thank you for this heartwarming initiative. I hope and I think that you will grow. You've been a great guest here. Thank you.
Thank you.
So for the people back home, this is probably one of the last moments to enter your questions to Keiran and others, to state your comments or moments of support. I want to invite back our key experts again, because we are going towards the end of the webinar, and we want to, let's say, catch up with the results. So what I've heard so far is, and I've seen so far, is that we have really heartwarming initiatives in every continent, in every part of the value chain. We've heard lots of advice in the design phase, the production phase, the usage phase, the waste management phase. We've heard, let's say, recommendations from what's needed for innovation, what's needed to create a market, partnering. So I want your reflections on it. And I want to start with Jocelyne. Jocelyne, are you back with us? Because I want to ask you from the perspective of emerging countries, what would be your pick of the various recommendations that you've heard? So what have you learned?
From the various recommendations that...
Recommendations which you find are very suitable to emerging countries.
The recommendations that I'm going to find very suitable for emerging countries, I would like to talk about. I learned a lot from all the entrepreneurs, and there are best practices that can be replicable in Africa. The reused and the inclusive aspect of circular economy is very, very important. And this is what we at the African Circular Economy Network, we try to put the human at the center of circular economy, and that is the beauty of circular economy, because a circular economy without human at the center is not sustainable. So we try to make sure we guide our entrepreneurs in our network. We oriented them in such a way that their business model has human at the center of its application. And we know in Africa, circular economy is mostly centered on recovery, because we are greatly an importing continent as far as products are concerned. So we are not yet very much implicated in design and production level, but mostly is the user behavior and the waste management. So that is what we have to stress, we have to stress on now, the user, the behavioral attitude of the user, and also the waste management aspect of it. And later on, we might have to stress on the design and the production phase as well. But we try to cover all, but lay more emphasis on what we are focused on now. That is the waste management aspect and the usage of the various plastic products.
So waste management as a catalyst for a circular economy. About, can you...
Yes, for the continent, exactly.
What are your thoughts about education and skills?
Yeah, skills are also very, very important because that is what we are doing now. We have a program with the academia at the African Circular Economy Network because we are trying to raise awareness on circular economy in the academia world because there is very little or very low awareness in the academia, in the policy environment, because academia are actually the one educating our consumers, they are educating our producers. So it is very important for them to be aware of circular economy solutions because they are the one giving on the skills and the education to make sure the producer of tomorrow has circular economy solutions incorporated in your business model or whatever field or industry they are working in, and also that the consumer is aware and is making the right choice when it comes to purchase. One of our entrepreneurs said, their purchase is responsible for what our planet is going to be tomorrow. So it is very important to educate and also build capacities and skills.
So I would say we have to educate the leaders and the consumers of tomorrow. Thank you for that. I temporarily go to David. David, are you here with us? What lessons do you have for countries that we call, well, developed, but actually if you look at developed countries, it's only 50% of their packaging, for instance, that they can recycle. So developed is between quotes. Please, what's your summary of today?
Well, first of all, let me say how much I've enjoyed hearing from actually all of the entrepreneurs. Some things have really stood out to me. Keiran's model for the informal sector is really important for lots of parts of the world. The entrepreneurial spirit of Crystal, Tom, Martin, and Brian, all of you are unlocking the potential solutions to the issues that we've created for ourselves in the last 50 years or so. And Patrick, back to the future. I think that's a really great message. Go backwards to look to go forwards. We used to have the milk bottles delivered to the house and taken and washed. And it's just a habit that we've got out of. So it's really interesting to think about those sort of messages. In terms of your question, Freek, is a great question. We know that at best we're only halfway there. And to improve this, I think we need to ensure that plastic is only used where it's absolutely necessary. And we've seen some examples today of how that can be removed from the market. We don't need it all the time. And that where it is necessary, it's designed to be reused and recycled, and that it is collected and recycled effectively, and that we keep creating markets for where that material can be used so it has a value and goes back into making new items. All of you who've presented today have parts of the answer to those things. Plastic packs in the UK, in Europe and USA and other countries do bring together all the value chain to try and make these changes. So basically connecting to your local plastics packs, and I think there's one covering wherever all of you are actually. So I mentioned earlier that we've seen in the UK over 2 billion items that were not recyclable, either removed from the market or converted to something that is recyclable. So it can be done. Together we can scale all of this up. One area we know is a global challenge and hasn't really been mentioned today is flexible plastics. So finding an economically viable solution to reducing the use of these and recycling what does get used will be critical to moving us from 50% to more 70 or 80% that we think is achievable. And in thinking about the link to climate action, plastic initially came to the public's attention a few years ago as a pollution or litter issue. But there's growing recognition, I think, now by the public and policymakers of the link between fossil fuels, plastics and climate change. And that seems to be leading to even greater calls for lifestyle changes and business model changes that eliminate or reduce the amount of plastic in our lives. And that can only be a good thing. And all of you have played an important role in that. So well done.
Thanks, David. What would be your quote after this webinar of today, if you would have one summary for us? I know this is a difficult question.
Yeah, I think the answers are out there. We have incredibly clever people working on those answers, and bringing all those people together to join up the effort, collaborate and innovate. I think that's the way forward.
Thank you, David. I have seen that there are a few questions coming from the web chat, and that's questions for Jocelyne and for you, David. And one question is about collaboration in the value chain. We have seen the entrepreneurial spirit, which is very much needed. At the same time, we see that leadership from retailers is crucial. But how do we bring this two together, the factor of trust and collaboration? Can the two of you share some reflections on collaboration in the value chain in different geographical areas? I start with Jocelyne, please.
Yes, collaboration and leadership is very important and should be at the center of a sustainable transition to circular economy. Because, for instance, we have Reader Plastics in Nigeria, a company on the circular economy, on the Lagos circular economy business platform, trying to set up, to design a company that is going to recycle used PET bottles into new PET bottles, but yet they cannot find a market for their products. Why? Because the PET bottles from virgin plastic, from virgin material is still cheaper than PET bottles from recycled material produced in Africa. So it is very important that policymakers step in to make sure they bring in some regulations and push these entrepreneurial activities already to ensure that maybe they can incentivize the use of recycled plastic material. That is why they have to work like hand in hand. And also a North-South and a South-South collaboration is very important in terms of transfer of technology, because maybe in Lagos, they find it difficult to produce these PET bottles from recycled plastic because they do not have maybe the right infrastructure or maybe the right capacities to do it. Whereas in other parts of the world, they find it a little bit easier to do it. So this is where collaboration is very important, because once we have only one planet, so plastic pollution in Africa does not only impact Africa, but impacts the whole planet. So we have our ocean, everything we communicate, and we have one planet to save. So it is very important that we sit together as a planet and think how to save the planet, and taking a bold step to make sure to drastically reduce plastic pollution will be a giant move in this regard.
Well said, Jocelyne. David, a few marks from you on collaboration. You already made a pledge to plastic packs everywhere in the world. What can we do to make people, entrepreneurs, waste management, government people, and retailers and brands meet?
Yes, so one of the things we've learned is that if you can create that pre-competitive space where businesses, their suppliers, their competitors, their regulators can all come together and know that it's not a question of discussing competitive issues, but of discussing issues which are a problem, a potential challenge to the future sustainability of all of their businesses, and bringing all those heads together to unlock the answer. It's surprisingly powerful seeing a retailer and their suppliers, for example, in a room who've never had an open and frank conversation about the impact of some decisions on other business decisions made by the supply chain, because it's a client-supplier relationship, and often the supplier is afraid to question anything that's given to them as a requirement. But once you break that down and have that open conversation, you can find that the two sides can agree to make a change, has no impact on anybody's costs, has no impact on customer perception, but it saves waste. And those kind of non-competitive or pre-competitive discussions really do unlock an awful lot of solutions across all sorts of different areas that we've worked certainly are on plastic.
And actually, that seems like an easy step which could easily be followed up. Thank you for that, David. Thank you, David. Thank you, Jocelyne. We have come to the end of this webinar. You have been a great expert panel. We have fantastic speakers, truly. We have seen that circular economy is happening everywhere. We have seen it in every part of the value chain. We know that entrepreneurs are showing, let's say, guts, persistence, and they make the difference, but they can't do it alone. We need also the regulator. We need the retailers. We need everybody on board. So let's make climate impact by going circular, and let's use this magic momentum that is present today in the plastic value chain. Let's walk the talk here. I want to thank the Ministry of Infrastructure and Environment for making this event possible. I want to thank also CITRA for allowing us to have this World Circular Economy Forum side event. Great thanks to Holland Circular Hotspot and also Springtide International for the great work you have done here. I want to say to you, dear audience, thank you for your many comments on the web chat. We hope to see you back on Monday for the roundtable where we present the results of 2 webinars today. You have been great. Thank you very much.